Yeah, so we have had a number of people ask, how can I have better food plots, deer plots?
That's something I'm interested in as well.
Well, I mean, same.
Yep.
And so if you are into deer, we're going to try to do a good mix of soil health here. And I feel ridiculous teaching anything about soil health because I'm always asking the guys about soil health. I'll take what little I've learned and we're trying to pass it on to the deer hunting community, or farmers that have a deer plot behind their house. Because I mean, there's a lot.
And what works for you, what works for me, maybe there's something we've learned that some guys haven't tried yet. There's a lot of guys out there that are very, very good.
How can we merge a little bit of some farming into the deer hunting world? And what can we tell the deer hunting world? You really don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like calling out some stuff that I think is a joke out there.
Let's hear it. I'm here for it.
I'm telling you. So, okay. All right, let's start with this. Soil pH. All right. So, in a soil test, there is your pH, and then there is called a buffer pH.
Yes.
So, and there is, which is a range. The best way to describe it is that's a range of how your soil can act. And so I've got a lot of ground that's just 6.1 pH, but the buffer pH is a 6.9, 7.2. And there was a certain instance this spring where someone pretty high, I'd say, very involved in the outdoor space, does not own a food plot company. I'll put that out there for people that are already like screaming at the screen. Does not own a food plot company and is not involved in one. But he had a piece of ground that needed soil pH corrected. And his local co-op recommended 4,000 pounds of Pell lime.
Wow.
Pell lime.
4,000
pounds of Pell lime per acre on his food plots. This guy's got over 50 acres of food plots. So I mean, he's got big areas of corn, beans, very high deer density, and that's what he's farming for deer. That is his. There's zero grain production for harvest. It is grain production. The only difference between this guy and a farmer is his combine is his deer.
Does he harvest deer?
Yeah.
I mean really?
He is grazing the best crop he can. Yeah. Corn, beans, clover, fall plots, brassicas, cereal grains, etc. for his deer.
One deer, usually, right?
This guy, yeah. And so 4,000 pounds, there were some wrecks a little higher than that, but that was the average wreck, was 4,000 pounds. I called Johnny. Hey, Johnny, this sounds like lunacy. What? And he's like, what is it? I said, they want to put 4,000 pounds an acre of Pell lime on a deer plot. Johnny about stroked out. Mm-hmm. And so Pell lime is a short-term calcium fix in soil.
You get a year out of it, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Most applications are a short-term, a growing season. It's not a long-term fix. Can we alter pH with lime? We'll get into that in a minute. And then knowing your lime source. So I still say to this day, I spoke about it at a conference not that long ago. This is one of the greatest misconceptions in the food plot world. Also heavily in farming.
It is. That
people don't understand how pH works. It's a relationship of hydrogen in the soil and so on and so forth. I'm still learning how the influence of hydrogen affects your pH. But if you've got a test, look at your pH spots and then pull out a hydrogen. I say you got a grid map on the farming side.
You should have your hydrogen.
Put your hydrogen out there. Look for high hydrogen is equal to what pH, and what low hydrogen is what pH. It's directly like boom, boom.
Directly correlated, yeah.
Yes. And so people will, this thing's going to talk. This is a podcast about pH. I can already feel it, about soil pH. But it's really one of the most, it's one of the most basic and one of the most misconceived things about dirt. We fight it all the time in farming. You know, low pH. Oh, we fight it here. Guys fight it high pH.
Yeah.
Iron chlorosis.
Yep.
You know, so on and so forth in beans and milo. But so this guy, 4,000 pounds, and he's going to apply it on, and it was very expensive. Very expensive.
I can only imagine 4,000 pounds of pelletized lime is it's got to be expensive.
His co-op was ready. They were going to just start sending semis. Just dumping it in the end of the field.
How many acres did you say?
It's 50-some acres.
Jeez.
So 5 times, it'd be 100.
Basically 2 ton to the acre, right?
Yeah, it'd be 4,000 pounds over 50 acres. That's a lot, man.
200,000 pounds.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. 4,000 times 50? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
200,000 pounds. Good
Anyway,
grief. Loading it with a little bucket tractor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're going to be there for months.
He will be there all year long.
Uh-huh.
By the time he gets done, he's going to start over for next year.
It's going to look like an 8-inch snow out there. And I asked him, I said, why? He said, well, our pH is low. And so I okay, send it in. So his pH was low in some areas. It was. In one area, it was very low, where some Pell Lime, I think, would help him. Yep. And so I asked Johnny, I said, Johnny, what's this guy do? He's like, the max, and I believe this rec was, I'm 90% sure. Johnny said, I don't exceed 300 pounds of Pell Lime in a year. So you think how many X times they were exceeding 300 pounds?
Rec is 300 pounds, and
that's max.
That's max.
Max in a year,
the
300 pounds.
Put 4,000
pounds.
Wow. That's a problem.
I'm like, red flags.
Yeah.
And so he goes, I said, send me your soil tests. He sent me all the soil tests from the farm, and we're going through, and his pHs weren't the best, but and so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at his base saturation calciums. And there's base saturation potassium, calcium, hydrogen, and sodium. Is it?
Yeah, I think
sodium. I think is the other one.
Getting your salt levels figured out.
I think that's right. If I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, someone's going to tell me.
Let us know.
Yes, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah,
media guys are just kind of like excited about that. But so his base saturation calcium was, in most cases, exceptionally good. It was in the 70s, you know, which guys are much smarter than myself say that the, upper 60s, lower 70s is a great range to be in your base saturation calcium. If you have not taken a soil test and to read your base saturation calcium, farmer, food plotter, does not matter, gardener, do so, because that is going to tell you, your base sats are going to tell you much more than just your basic
pH.
Yeah, your basic, just your standard pH test. And so we're making, early, we did a podcast about, we're in our 30s now, what would we tell our 20-year-old self is, I wish I would have learned how dirt functioned much better, better sooner, instead of, now.
That ties into knowing where
all the money where
your lime comes from.
Can you imagine the money we'd have back?
Oh, goodness sakes.
I don't even want to think about that.
No,
sick now.
Just forget
Let's
about
move
it.
on. Let's shoot deer. And so base saturation calciums were exceptionally good. In some cases, very high. And so we look, and his hydrogens were out of whack. And so I told him, I said, dude, you don't have a calcium issue. Oftentimes it can be a drainage issue. It can be a compaction issue. Some other things play into effect here. I'm like, you actually don't need like you're looking at this backwards. And one thing further that a guy could do is tissue test and see, is calcium getting in my test? Because you can have high calcium.
See what that plant's lacking.
Yes, and you can have high calcium in your plants, and you can be short in your food plots or your corn or your beans, which could be your food plots.
Yeah.
Across the road, I fight keeping calcium and pH in balance over here. I put on lime, so on and so forth. And now we're starting to work with calciums, in furrow and foliar. But honestly, someone brought this to my attention. They're like, well, are you testing the plant? Well, what do you mean? I'm low in the dirt. That doesn't mean you're low in the plant. Okay, so I started pulling tests. I had a fresh batch pulled last week, brought them back. Calciums are fantastic. Okay, so what's there is getting in the plant. So now we can talk about efficiency. How efficient is my plant in my soil cycling? Because there's areas where your nutrient levels can be lower and produce a fantastic yield. And you can have areas where you might have a high area and you might not produce any better, even though according to standard train of thought, higher must mean more.
Right.
What
is causing your issues? What is your limiting factor?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on here. Is what is your greatest limiting factor on the farm? Yeah. And so pH. I'm starting to. I know. I'm starting to.
The tangent's getting a little zigzag, but we're still going.
Yeah. So soil pH. So the number one thing I would tell guys is if you're trying to correct pH, make sure that pH is your actual issue.
Do a little research.
Yeah.
Yeah.